Hello, I really wanted to quickly show you a show and tell and show you, this was my 6th journal, and I made it because I wanted to practice a faux leather cover, and it was inspired by Johanna Clough. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's from Australia, and there was a tutorial that she gave about how to make a faux leather cover. I put in 2 signatures, and they're loose like a travel journal. And I'm personalizing it by putting in memories of my granddaughter, my new granddaughter. And so I'll write in here events or things that we do together as she grows up and eventually give it to her as a gift. I used seam binding as a closure on the sides. Put her name in the front, her details, pictures of her. But this was my 6th journal, and I was learning. And this was about a year ago. I was learning as I went. But my point about my 6th journal is just that it is good to number your journals, just for your own memory and for your own record. So this one is not finished, of course, because it's going to be a work in progress, and I'll fill it as she grows up. But I used little tiny charms for the dangles. Has a little precious moments girl, buttons, and beads. But my main point is to show you my 12th journal, and a suggestion of how you can keep track of your journals. This is upside down. I really try to use as many recycled things or found things that I can find to put in the journals. First of all, for expense purposes, and that way I can spend other money on a tool or something that I really like. So this is just a tapestry from a thrift shop. But this is my 12th journal, and one suggestion I have is, and I'm pretty sure I saw someone else suggest something like this. I found these tickets that say number 6, number 8. They're marked from 1 to 9 in the written area there. They're all numbered. And so I copy dyed them, and I've been putting them in my journals, the last 2 journals, as a way to number a journal. The recipient of the journal won't necessarily understand this, and that's okay. For me, it's just kind of a fun detail. But this says number 1 and number 2, and I'm putting them in here as my 12th journal. I'm also taking a ticket book that I found at a flea market, a sales book, receipt book, and starting with the 12th receipt, I'm going to take the duplicate and put it into the book I'm making. In other words, this is the 12th journal, so I'm putting in the number 12. Also, the recipient won't care that that is significant, but for me, it'll be fun, and I'll have a way to keep a record of all the journals I make, at least from 12 to 50. That's how many receipts are in that book. So that's just one suggestion, to keep a record of your own journals in kind of a fun, organized way. And you can make a note in the sales book duplicate who you gave it to, or who you sold it to, or maybe some details about the cover, or anything special that you tried in that journal. So this is the front page. I made a miniature file folder, and I filled it with little papers. I made the file folder itself a little pocket and put in several little tags. The beginning has a little flip, and in the flip has a little notepad of a few pages, and hiding under that is another little pocket with something in it. I stamped on the muslin that I used for the to cover the inside of the spine. I made a front pocket that has a little more interest with a few more pockets. Used a rubber stamp to make some words, ponder and dwell. Used some silk leaves to sew in a little edge. Made a stencil of a coffee to go. These are my own rubber stamps that I made, and I showed in another video on this channel how to make your own rubber stamps. On this one, I put them on a dictionary page, and I used them as a background for this. That's the same rubber stamp. And just made that a journaling card that looks like a coffee to go. Put it in an acetate pocket. One tip is to sew around the acetate, and that can grab the glue, since acetate is not very glue friendly. Then I'm just going to go slowly through this and show you just a show and tell. Fabric tab with a metal charm sewn on, little heart. A picture from a friend from her garden. I turned it into a pocket. Again, I used my own rubber stamps to make this stationery page. Some of our favorite elements in junk journals, music pages. This is a rubber stamp I made as well. Same rubber stamp. You can tell I really like this rubber stamp. I made it with some little girls in, not just little girls, big girls in Honduras when I was working at a children's home, and I have sweet memories of them. A charm with a little teeny tiny crocheted circle on it. This flips open for a writing space. A journal prompt. Here is the story, what I love. I stamped white ink on old black paper. I made a flip with a fabric ruffle, and inside another place to write, and underneath that, I didn't want to hurt that picture on the scrapbook page because I thought it was neat. And I had a little piece of magazine that said, "Those thoughts appear everywhere." Pockets, little strips. You can use little tiny strips. Every little teeny tiny piece that you have has the potential to become a scrap in a design. And I really like Corey Dahman, and she has a channel about crafting with scraps, and I really enjoy that. This is the back of a greeting card. I inked it all up. Papyrus means paper, so I thought that was perfect. A Franken page where I sewed together wallpaper and a ledger paper to make a full-sized page. Of course, junk mail with the windows there. I might put something behind it. This is circles punched out of a variety of textures and types of paper to make a frame. Lace on the edge of the page. I coffee dyed this blue paper. This is the other half of that circle framed page. Another pocket. I made a rubber stamp that's somewhat of a circular pattern of leaves. I laid a doily against this page, kind of a plasticky kind of doily, and rubbed my ink dauber over it, and it left the impression of a doily, and I really enjoyed that. It's a belly band that the person who gets the journal could slide in things. My teeny tiny file folder again. I love miniatures, and I like to incorporate that into journals. A wallpaper pocket. My own ink stamps that this was a kind of a background page, an old file folder that I was using as a background to catch messes, and then I stamped it up quite a bit before I cut it up to use in the journal. Paper ruffle, old Trader Joe's bag. I just like the brown paper. This was from G. Kerr. She was showing you how to make origami dresses, origami bodices. I put a little tissue skirt on the bodice and then made it into a journaling card. The person could write about a night out, a prom, any kind of dressy event, or Barbies, or fashion. Another Franken page, pages sewn. I left a punched out hole of the butterfly inside this tag. Excuse me. Another one of the laying a plasticky kind of doily on a page. This was just a piece of cardstock. And rubbing the dauber over it, and it made a wonderful pattern that almost looks like a photograph to me. A little cluster. Another pocket. This was a greeting card. Another one of those edges of the doily. I made a pocket that has 2 panels, flips open to make a little journaling spot, and it's also a belly band. A fabric envelope full of some things. Pam at the Paper Outpost is where I got that inspiration. Frankenpage tab with a little charm. It's actually a little bell attached to it. This was a genealogy book I got at a flea market that you could write in your family stuff. So it was wonderful paper for using as a junk journal. Journaling card, another pocket, a paper strip with a bunch of little tiny scraps. A seam binding ruffle. Hygge is I think it's a Danish word that means cozy or charming, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but someone made a comment on a page I made and said, this is very, and she used that word. And I said, what does that word mean? She said it's Danish for very cozy and charming. And so I thought, oh, I like that word, and I'm going to include it in some more journals. Another one of those. Rub the dauber across a doily. You could see I was really enjoying that. Ledger paper. Pockets, a stack of pockets. Another teeny tiny file folder, and this time with a few stamps and little pieces of paper in it. I even put a teeny tiny label on it to imitate a real file folder. An inky treasure hunt. Old wives' lore for gardeners. I just thought that sounded interesting. The other half of that Trader Joe's brown paper bag. An old envelope. This is a journaling card made to look like a jar. I just used a jar stencil to trace out a jar shape on scrapbook paper and tried to find things that were interesting that would look like they were in a jar. And then in this case, I made it into a fold-out journaling card. Made this gray inked lid to simulate a lid. And I had a lot of fun. I think I got the idea from Shabby Dabby Doodah. She had, not exactly this is my own take on it, but I made a stencil to look like a jar and just went through magazines and books that had interesting flowers or clear spaces around that might look like a jar. And then I kind of drew around, made details of blue glass and jar lids. And this one I made into a pocket on the back so the person could tuck a couple things in there. This is another, I think, fold out with pockets inside. And this one, just found a flower that would look good on the front, turned it into a pocket. And this is actually journal number 12. So I put another 12 there. Made a little fold out, tucked it in the pocket. And I think I will put that 12 in here since this is the 12th journal. This is one of the rubber stamps I made, and I showed in another video how to do that with art foam and cardboard. And I was trying to imitate the arts and crafts movement with William Morris. I really like the designs of his wallpaper. And it's in the images are in the public domain, but I don't like to use things that are not my own to reproduce them, but I do like to get ideas from things that are in the public domain. Between the signatures it says, "See it so clearly," and that was from a typed letter that I found. Pockets, fold out for more journaling space. None of these are new ideas. I mean, I may have tweaked some of them, but many of them, of course, are ideas and tutorials that are online on YouTube. That's where I got 99% of my ideas. This was from Corey Dahman, and she takes a little die cut and puts glaze on it to make it shiny, and I was playing around with some of her ideas. This is actually an example of the William Morris arts and crafts movement. I found a book of designs. This was my husband's idea. He said, why don't you make a page where it folds out and then folds out again and then folds out again, just for fun. And I said, I like this idea and I'm going to do it. I grew up in Germany, and these are some price tags that were on some old photo albums in Deutschmarks, and which they don't use anymore. They use euros, so I thought these are fun to include. Any real ephemera. Junk mail. I turned one of those little tickets into a tiny band that something could be tucked under. I made a little notebook to go under that. Top tuck. a cluster, a junk mail pocket, which is also a belly band. Jelly band. It says junk drawer. I made a tag using Corey Dahman's ideas of using tiny paper strips and inking each one, kind of in neutral tones. Then putting it into the junk mail pocket and only gluing the top and bottom of the junk mail pocket so that it can be used as a belly band. I used more silk, not flowers, but leaves to sew onto the page, and I made a fabric mushroom and sewed that on too, and part of the empty area around the leaves made a nice pocket. In between the signatures it says Hidden Treasures. A fabric pocket with a little notebook inside, and since I love miniatures, I saw this teeny tiny terrarium drawing and I thought fits in with the miniature theme. Paper strip, pocket, Corey Dahman's ideas of strip scraps again, my own rubber stamps, some of my own rubber stamps, not all of that is my own rubber stamps, a flower in acetate, side tuck, and the strip here also makes a little side tuck for little bits. Leaves I had rubbed years ago. I think I was doing it with kids for an art project. I came across them and I thought I'm going to repurpose those for journal decoration. Another junk journal flip, and put a pocket in the back of, not junk journal, junk mail flip. Put a pocket there with a little bird showing through. More of that doily. Paper strips. Thank you for looking at my show and tell journal, journal number 13. I hope that gives you an idea of how to number your journals and enjoy keeping track of them in a fun, organized way that incorporates numbers and tickets. Thanks for looking at my show and tell. Miss you, Loose and Honor.